Hi, everyone. I'll just get started then. Lou, if you don't mind letting people in while I'm doing my intro. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angie Pham, and I am the Community Development Worker at Waterloo Region Community Legal Services. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn workshop entitled Anishnabek Legal Principles. As a disclaimer, the session is being recorded for those who could not attend. If you have any questions or comments throughout this presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. And thank you again for your attendance. I'd like to also offer a land acknowledgement. Though we are meeting virtually today, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Anishnabek, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral peoples, and thank them for allowing us to do our work on their traditional lands. It's my pleasure to introduce today's presenters, Lou Roberts from Waterloo Region Community Legal Services, as well as Myeengun from Be-Dah-Bin Gamik, Conestoga College's Aboriginal Services. And now I'll hand things over to them. Thank you again.
Thank you, Angie. I wanted to start off with a virtual smudge. If anybody in the Zoom has smudge capabilities, please feel free to join in as well. I am using, I don't know if it'll show, I'm using a little smudge pot, and I have 4 medicines in it. I have cedar, sweetgrass, sage, and tobacco. So I am going to smudge with those medicines. Those are the 4 medicines that I normally use. And so I am going to light it. I think it didn't. So starting off the meeting with a smudge starts off our meeting in a good way. And I'll just explain what I am doing. So I am just washing the smoke. Washing the smoke over my body. So we smudge, again, like I said, to start in a good way. And we smudge our mind so that we can think in a good way. We smudge our eyes so we can see good things. We smudge our ears so we can hear good things. We smudge our mouth so we can say good things. Did I say that? And then we smudge our heart so we can love in a good way. Sometimes people smudge their feet as well so they can walk a good path and walk in a good way. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat box. We have monitoring. Angie will monitor, I will monitor. So again, thank you, Miigwech, for coming. My name is Lou Roberts. I am the Indigenous Justice Coordinator at Waterloo Region Community Legal Services. I am very grateful to have Myeengun here with us today. And I'm going to start off before Myeengun speaks, just to talk a little bit about a couple of things. I guess starting at the beginning, which, you know, it's a beginning. I wanted to talk about a couple of treaties that we have. So this one, it's called the Dish with One Spoon Treaty. And in Southern Ontario, we are under this treaty. So we are all treaty people under the Dish with One Spoon. It is an agreement for sharing the territory among 2 or more nations. So the treaty, the belt, has in the center here what is called the dish. And so it's an agreement for sharing this territory and all people in the territory eating out of the single dish with one spoon. So it's a shared responsibility to ensure that that dish is never empty. There are three takeaways, I suppose, in this treaty. So it's to take only what you need, leave some for everybody else, and to keep it clean. So it's that shared responsibility of taking care of the land and all the creatures that we share it with. So that it also shows with the spoon that there are no knives at the table, and that's to keep the peace and to remain peaceful. The next one I wanted to show you is the two-row Wampum Treaty. So this is it. So the two-row Wampum Treaty was the first treaty, or one of the oldest treaties between the Haudenosaunee and the European, the Dutch. And so this treaty, and if you see here, it's on the field of white with two purple rows. So the two paths of purple represent two vessels traveling down the same river. So the Indigenous people of Turtle Island is representing one path in their canoe and their laws, customs, and traditions and ways. And then the other path is the European or settler people in their ship with their laws, customs, traditions, and ways. And so it shows traveling down the river side by side on their own boat with the treaty to not make laws or interfere in the affairs of the other. So there are three rows of white between each of the purple. And so those represent peace, friendship, and respect. And this treaty is the basis for all future Haudenosaunee relationships with the European people. So I guess this is the beginning, I guess, I wanted to share with you. And I would like to pass it now over to Myeengun. So thank you, Miigwech.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here. We are here on a topic that is, I guess, everybody needs to talk about at some point. We're talking about laws, but we're definitely sharing a system that has been from the beginning built upon a relationship, and Lou's expression of those wampum belts are something that Canada had not really explored to the extent that Canada needs to know. I think there's always a turning point in society that allows us to create, for the benefit of society, a set of laws and agreements that allow people to probably be able to live, in their differences, but with laws that surround them to make a place comfortable for all. And I really appreciate the chance to share some of the things that I've learned in the number of years that I've walked on this earth to this point. I've been very fortunate to have got to, I guess, build in my own mind, my own frame of mind, a thought and a process of how maybe this is something we can build for a better future. And today, by you joining us today, you're bringing your own presence, your own, I guess in our way, your clan, your spirit helpers, and the things that make you who you are. You work in a field probably that, wants to see a better existence for all people that walk on this land here. And so today we get a chance to speak about some things. But first, before I can even venture into a conversation about law or about possibility of rebuilding our nation in a better way, you can never go forward unless you know where you come from. Our future is dependent on where we've been and all the lessons we learned during that process to build a greater a place for all people. So today I'm going to start off in this manner. You've all been made fully aware over the last few weeks of some very sorrowful things that happened in our history. Today we have children who are paying the cost of a deflection of spirituality, a deflection of coexistence, and by virtue of the building of what they considered the residential schools here in Canada and the United States. These schools offered a place to where Indigenous people had no choice but to attend. These schools were operated for well over 100 years on what we consider Canada today. These schools carried I guess in our sense, a way of taking people away from their own language, their own spirituality, their ceremonies, and all the things that we considered very important. But even previous to those schools, and previous to what we've just heard and what our country is grieving over today, there were some things we need to talk about our ability to, I guess, as a country, as humanity, associate with each other, even if we can't speak our own languages. We have to share that, and I really have to acknowledge this part of it. I always, when I teach in my course, I usually start off in the way that our elders always told us. And our ceremonies here in North America have been, I guess, the prominent position of building strength for the future. Because if you build things without having that unity of other humans, our clans and our creator, it really is based on nothing, without any strength to hold it. What we need to do, I guess, as a nation is to discover or rediscover how we're able to formulate laws and how we're able to formulate existence in a co manner. I want to go back to one of the first things that I like to acknowledge is the responsibilities that were brought to this earth. Our mother, we call her our mother because she provides everything in life that is necessary for life. She provides our water, our air, the land that we live on, the trees that grow, the medicines, the plants, the animals, all the things that were, I guess, previous to humans here. But what we found out in our traditional stories, in the way that our elders pass on knowledge, was that at a time when Creator seen that it was time to create a place, in one of our original creation stories, they said it came from an original sound in the darkness. I guess if you can kind of imagine sitting in a dark room and for amount of time, and then hearing an echo someplace far in the distance. This echo came at intervals, and over time, the echo sounded louder. It became even to a point where it was deafening to the ears of whoever it was that was hearing them. At this point, we understand that that was the first heartbeat that was sent from our Creator to all that is out there. Nobody knew what was out there. Nobody understood how anything worked at that time, but all they could hear was this resonation of a sound, which we now come to know as our first heartbeat. That heartbeat carried its strength to those that maybe needed to hear that after creation was finally put in place. There was some laws that were targeted to those that were to live on this beautiful place we call Mother Earth. And as we started hearing the resonation of that sound, that thunder, became very clear that some of the things that had to take place was, in fact, some of the things we understand today. Love for humankind, love for our animals and the things that sustain us, and mostly love for the beautiful Mother Earth that Creator provided for us to walk on while we walk on this earth. During that period, the medicines that grew and still to today offer the things that we turn to when we have to make important decisions. So today, one of the medicines I want to bring your attention to is the tobacco. You might have seen it in a form of a tobacco tie like this, or you might have seen it in its natural form. But it was told to us that when Creator made our Mother the Earth, all the things that was in this Mother Earth carried a responsibility. And one of the responsibilities was that everything had to work in conjunction with each other. The wind couldn't live without the land. The water couldn't live without the plants. All the things that worked in perfect harmony was meant to be shared on this earth so that everybody can have the benefit of all that wisdom and strength that they brought. And when finally Creator decided that it was time to bring forth the final life that was presented to the earth in the form of humans, we were told that we were the last that was brought to this world. And Creator put us next to a plant, which we call now in our language, sama. It is our tobacco. We were told that this tobacco was the important ability in that medicine to talk to our Creator. We talk to our Creator by holding our tobacco and putting it in our hand and sending our prayers, whether it's in a fire, whether it's putting it on the ground, whether it's using that tobacco in those ceremonial practices, because we have questions. When we were brought to this earth, we didn't know our relationship to all the other things, but we knew that there was responsibility, that we had to fit into that harmonious life that Creator provided before we got here. And so we had to ask in that first meeting about our role here. Because if you look at the word Anishnabek or Anishnabek, in the way that we understand it, it is when human was brought to the earth. And that point was very important because at that point of bringing us to the earth, we had to build our relationship with all that came to be. I guess you can say it was our first law. It was the first understanding that we needed to be in harmony with all the other parts of creation. And we were given that within our being to come to the earth and to share the things that we were given to share with all the other parts of creation, but never to oversee or never to undermine the other parts of existence. And I think what we understood now was Creator built this earth, humans came, and we lived in perfect harmony. The responsibility of all these things worked in a perfect way, the way our Creator wanted it to be. But over time, things seem to have changed. Human people had a brain that at sometimes felt that it was superior to the plants, the water, the trees, the animals. We become to a point where we thought it was probably our decision-making manner that would make the best decisions for all humankind and Mother Earth's coexistence. We became to a point where the thought that humans would be superior to all other things brought to the earth. And we started acting in that manner. We started acting to a point where we were taking from the other parts of creation, like the wood that we needed for fire. And we would never give thanks. We would chop the trees down and we would build our homes, we would build our fires and all the things that necessary, our tools, out of that wood. And then we started thinking that that wood was placed here for us to do those things. And then when we needed to eat, we decided to take the animals, the deer, the turkeys, the fish. And at the start, we were kind. We gave our thanks. We said our prayers. And then over time, we just kind of nullified all of that process. And now we were given a chance to build, I guess, tools that would make our jobs easier. And once we started learning how to do those things, we became even more forgetful about our responsibilities, about how things come to us. I always think about a hunter, who goes out and brags to his community, that this has been at the work of my great skill. I was able to round this deer and to bring him home. with the skills that I was given. But now that I think about that, I always now find a balance that says, I think the deer probably gave himself up for you because the deer knew you needed to have sustenance. And as much as your skill level was, it had no match between the deer giving himself up to allow the community to have food. And so the deer, and what we understand now, has given himself up many, many times to allow people to have sustenance. But not just that, the fish and the other animals that we need for survival, they also acted in the same manner. We now know that if we acknowledge these things in a way that we understand that our tobacco can be laid to give thanks for that animal, to give thanks for all the things that we have in this world, we can now understand, what we need to do to make things better. I want to take you to a little bit of a scenery in your mind for a minute, because we're in a COVID world now. We can't actually do our ceremonies. We've been kind of held back a little bit for some important messages that come through during these ceremonies. But even through the virtual world, we can still feel the strength of this. And what I'd like to do is ask how many people here have been, how many people are early birds, like to get up early in the morning and, see the sun come up maybe. And it's a nice feeling. Not a lot of people do that. A lot of people like to sleep in as much as they can. But if you can, wake up in the morning before the sun comes up. And there's an essence of peace and calmness before the activity of life begins, before the sun comes up. There's a element of calmness, because when you gather as humans, let's say we're on a mountaintop where there's a beautiful place to be out in nature, where we can kind of feel the air in our face, sometimes where we can feel the air that gives us life, but also use our ears, the way that Lou smudged our ears earlier, to hear the beautifulness of the water, the wind, the trees as the leaves start moving in the early morning breeze. And you sit and you wonder about our point and our place at this moment, because it's a time of meditation. It's a time of looking inside your own soul of your relationship here. And then what I'd like to do with us on this mountaintop, to say that maybe we don't know each other as people in this room, maybe some people do and some don't, but a kinship or a friendship gets created when we come together in a circle. We all know that life begins the way it does, and then we converge with some people, and some of those people become our friends. Some of them become our partners. We join together in a family that has been the nucleus of who we are. And so if we meet on this mountaintop and we share this moment of reflection, I'd like to bring your attention over to the direction of the east. If we can all kind of look in that direction, and to say that something very beautiful is about to happen. And we're going to witness this together. We're going to see one of the things that happens every single day. Sometimes we take notice, sometimes we don't. Some people honor this moment, but it's the time when that beautiful sun arises over the horizon. That sun that comes up in the morning offers all of its tremendous gifts of warmth, of light, of those sun rays that give us vitamins to survive. But as the sun comes up and we acknowledge this beautiful moment together, I'd like to acknowledge what happened previous to that. And that was the one who looked after us while you were sleeping. We call her Grandmother Moon. She comes every single evening to allow us to be protected while our lives go to sleep and we rest our bodies. Our Grandmother Moon looks after us in a very honorable way that a grandmother would do that. She makes sure that she looks beyond us while we sleep, and she gives us that opportunity to know that even her medicines become very strong. Because if you ever watched the lunar times when our grandmother is full, she sends medicine to the earth. She sends messages to the waters, where the waters start generating energy, because during the full moon, you'll see our tides grow strong. And the things that happen during that moment become very, very real to us, because we feel the effects of that. If we put our medicines outside, maybe in a bowl of water, and we leave it into the moonlight, our grandmother will take that medicine and she'll put that positive, strong female energy into that medicine, so that we can have that ability to use that to heal ourselves. So she'll directly send you personally medicine that helps your body if you're going through cancers, diabetes, other issues. You can actually ask our grandmother Moon, and she'll help you. She'll never refuse you. By just putting medicine outside, she'll bring that medicine to that and energize that medicine, and you drink that medicine, and that medicine is for you to heal. At that moment, when Grandmother Moon does her responsibility of passing her responsibility to Father Sun, when the sun comes up, then we know that we are in the presence of this beautiful Father that allows us to have that heat. And what we understand is the men in our communities were responsible for the fire, the women were responsible for the water. So we have a moment of sharing during this moment, and some of the women will sing a water song. They'll represent the women's spirit, and the men will bring another song that'll bring the fire, and we'll honor that every single morning. And that's considered our sunrise ceremony. Very simple, the ability for us to honor these things, and then ensure our relationship is always in that delicate mode, in an honorable mode that happens during this time. So if you're on this mountain with me in your mind, consider yourself lucky, because this is a solemn moment. This is a moment that we shared together as a group of people to have this opportunity to get to know each other. And so we look to the east and the sun comes up, and we give thanks to that beautiful sun that will provide the warmth. Now that the sun is awake, now that the sun has given us the sunshine, I want to take you down a path that tells us that we will be traveling for a little bit of a walk. And if you ever walk down a mountainside in the early morning hours or whenever, what you do see in your path is the other parts of creation. You look at the trees, sometimes a rabbit, sometimes a deer, sometimes the birds will come and show themselves to you. They'll give themselves a chance to explore the beautifulness that they bring to the earth. And you feel lucky when that happens, because if you've ever seen a hawk or an eagle, you stop because your breath finally takes this excitement to say that I've been in the presence of an eagle today. And you can't say that every day, because it doesn't happen every day. But when it does, it feels like you've been gifted something very, very beautiful. And even if you like to fish, we don't always catch fish, but if you do catch a fish, it's almost like the same thing. That fish gave itself up for you, and then you feel honored that that fish was brought into your life in a manner. And sometimes even at that point, we give tobacco for that fish that gave himself up for you. And then we walk down this trail, and maybe even the small animals, the ants and the worms, and other animals that live close to the earth, they'll give themselves a chance for you to see them. Sometimes we just step on them. Sometimes we just walk on them. We don't see them, but they were brought here also by Creator, and they had a purpose as they came here. And so we travel down this hill, and I'm going to take you to this place we consider to be a lodge. If you know what a lodge is, maybe you've seen a longhouse before. This longhouse was built out of saplings of wood, and they were cleaned of all their leaves and bent over and tied at the top. And we built a house out of that. We put a number of them down, and we tie them together, and we face the doors from the east direction and the west direction. And what we do, we've covered the outside of this lodge with birch bark. And so it becomes a place, in our language, a gamik, which is a home, a house, in that manner. And what we do when we walk into this lodge is we get to feel the importance. Well, even before that, I'd like to tell you, as we come down to this mountain together, we turn to the left and we see our children, maybe teenagers, working, putting water together, maybe cutting firewood. We see that they're working at something. And then I motion you over to the eastern doorway where there's a man standing there who, I guess, if you've ever seen somebody who had a very hard life, somebody who's been struggle, somebody who's been in hardship, maybe a large man, you know, who's on his face shows that it's been a rough life for him. And I think we've seen people like that, somebody that we kind of had caution around because their face just shows that there's been some pain and there's some hardship in that life. And we don't know how they're going to react to us. We don't know if they're going to lash out at us or how they're going to be. But this gentleman here, he's carrying a bowl similar to a smudge bowl. And inside this bowl that he has, it's that tobacco that I talked about earlier. And he motions you to take some of that tobacco. Some people say take it from your left, that way it's closer to your heart. And so as you take that tobacco and hold it in your hand, you get motion to come into this lodge. You have to bend down as you come into this lodge because the doorway is a little bit low. So it's almost like you have to give your thanks to what you're about to see by almost like bowing down before you go in. And as you walk inside that lodge, what you'll see in there is incredible. You know, I'll motion all of us into this lodge and I'll say, as we walk, look around, because along the edges of this lodge on the inside, you're going to see segments of different beings. Maybe to the left, you'll see a group of people, and maybe what they're wearing is something significant to maybe a bear. Like in my ring, I have a bear claw here. And this bear claw, all these people are wearing things like with a bear, maybe beadwork with bears on them or elements of that bear. And we now know that that is the section where the Bear Clan members sit. If you move down the lodge a little bit more, sometimes you'll see people with eagle feathers and maybe pictures of eagles, you know, on their beadwork. They seem to be honoring this one particular animal. And so that's where the Eagle Clan members would sit. And then there's 7 altogether. If you travel through the inside of this lodge down to the west end, you'll see the 7 original clans. And one would be the Hmong or the Loon clan. And there's other ones. But as you pass by the western door, you notice that that door has not been made to pass through. It seems to be blocked off for some reason. And when you walk by that door, you kind of wonder why that door hasn't been used. You can tell that it's blocked off and we don't use that door. So we walk past that door and you find the other clans on the other side of the lodge. But what in particular I want to bring to your attention, there's one section there that there seems to be nothing there. There seems to be no elements of any animal like you've seen in the other sections of the lodge. And we now come to know that that is the section of the Deer Clan. The Deer Clan had been, I guess, venturing out on their own, doing things that the Deer Clan are supposed to do. But they started marrying within their clan. They started marrying members of that clan. And one of the rules or laws that we come to know was the Deer Clan we're not supposed to marry within our clan. And so I tell people now, you know, young people that don't know their values, I guess from their culture, that you need to know these things when you're looking for a partner. You have one of the first questions you need to ask is what your clan is, because you'll know whether or not you can date those ones, because we're told we can't marry within our own clan. And that kind of got lost a little bit during residential school times, and people started doing that. But they sectioned this one part off so that we could be reminded. We were told that the Deer Clan was taken away from all the other clans for a period of time, so that we could remember our original laws and our original instructions. And so as you walk by that one, you'll see just maybe a little deer hoof in there that tells us it's a deer component, but there's nobody there. And so that one will come back maybe someday, and maybe we'll have that opportunity to see our dear clan brothers and sisters again. And we hope, at some point we learn our rules and our laws, so that we can follow them. And then as you pass through a little bit further, in the center of the lodge, you'll see a fire. This fire has been built. I guess everybody's probably been camped before and likes camping maybe. And what draws you together is that beautiful fire. The fire warms you in the evening. Sometimes it'll create smoke to get rid of the mosquitoes in the area that, are bothering you. But it has a lot of different effects to that fire. And then you can cook your marshmallows in there. You can have a really nice time. Sometimes people bring their guitar and they'll sing around that fire. That's a beautiful moment, when you practice that and sit outside on Mother Earth and to sit around that beautiful fire and to enjoy the company of your family and friends. That sharing of humanity coming together is, you can't bottle that. That's medicine, to be able to sit on Mother Earth and to share this beautiful time with your family and friends. Just a beautiful moment. And we don't do that enough, but that's something we need to do. But inside this lodge, we have this fire, and it kind of acts in the same manner. It asks us to kind of join circle around this fire and have a moment of a sharing time. And what I'd like to do is ask you to have a seat around that fire, to think about where you're at and what you're learning today. Think about that sunrise ceremony, that grandmother moon, that father sun, walking down that trail, with the beautiful animals and the trees and the fish. And then coming down to the lodge where you've seen this gentleman who looked very, very hard, and you took some tobacco from him coming to this lodge. And now you've already learned about our clans and one of the clans in particular. And now I'd like to introduce you to two people, really important at this moment, that you sit in this lodge with a good heart, because the two people that's going to come into this lodge shortly, but previous to them will be a young person, a young girl and a young boy, maybe of teenage age. And what they'd like to do is to bring you something that may be really nice for you to understand. They give you the girl is walking with a little, I guess, kind of like a teapot. The boy has these cups that were made out of like wood. You can tell that they were hand carved. And you get one of these cups in your hand. And the girl will come and pour this drink into your cup. And you don't know what this is, but you can recognize the smell, because the steam just kind of brings some comfort to you, even though you don't know what it is. And I'd like to tell you that one of our medicines that we drink at these moments is cedar. How many people can recognize cedar? Like if you can probably, you don't even have to see it now that you know what it is. You can tell what cedar smells like, and it has such a beautiful aroma. Oh, when you boil cedar in your home, it just sends out an aroma that's healing. We heard that cedar will actually kill the components of COVID. If you boil that into your home, it'll kill some of those germs that COVID has released. So it might be a good tip for you to do that every now and then in your home, keep your home safe. But as you get that drink, we ask that you take a sip of that. And it's hot and it's really nice, and it goes into your body. And what it does, it creates healing within you. The natural medicines, the natural elements of cedar has long been practiced within the Indigenous community, but it also tells us that cedar was brought to us to help with our healing. And so it's an enjoyable moment sitting by this fire and drinking the cedar tea, and you just feel so comfortable, and these girls, this boy that came, you just feel so proud that they've brought you something such nice. And so after you drink your cedar tea, you're holding your cup and you have that tobacco still in your hand. Two others will come into the lodge from that eastern door, a grandmother and a grandfather. You can tell the grandfather, he's got graying hair, he's got them in braids, and he's taking care of himself. He's wearing a beautiful vest. His clothes is very beautiful. He looked like he took care of himself to come to you today. And then next to him is the grandmother, which we call our Nokomis. She's the one who has that caring face, that beautiful eyes, that show love. Every time you look at an elder, you can tell the knowledge that's within these two people, and you feel warm to them. Some people not like the guy at the door where you kind of felt nervous about him. The opposite was with these grandparents. They felt like you just want to be in their presence. You feel like, that they've got something to share in the knowledge that they've created in their world. And it's such a loving feeling to have this. So now the stage is set for you to understand the love that we have with our past, with our ceremonies, with our importance of medicine, about our responsibilities that we come to know, our reasoning for being on our Mother the Earth, all sits in this lodge together with us, with this opportunity now to walk this day with something as beautiful as something we've been trying to find forever. And during this moment, we sit down with the elder, and the elders give us comfort. And they told us something really important. They said that the grandfather gives honor to the grandmother, and the grandmother gives honor to the grandfather. And the grandmother stands up in front of you, and she offers herself to say that you're welcome in this lodge. You're welcome on this earth. You're welcome in the relationship with all beings that were brought here, all creation that was brought here. In her kind eyes, she tells you that she loves you. She tells you that you've become part of her family now that you've come into the lodge and you're sitting in this circle together. And she wants you to tell your future generations and your present family that this place that we live on together and we share has to have that love, the humility, the honor, the bravery, and all the things that we come to understand in our 7 grandmother teachings, that with those meanings, we can walk through this world with the laws that our Creator gave us, with the love that we were supposed to share towards each other, to have this opportunity once again. And in her words, she shared so clearly that this is an important moment for you to walk this earth with your feet on Mother Earth to get that medicine that we're looking for. She says that we don't know how long we're going to walk, but she said that there is a door, there's a pathway in this lodge that tells us that there are things that need to take place. And she wants to refer you back to that western door. Remember where we seen it wasn't open? She said that the only time that door opens is when we finish our journey as we walk on our Mother the Earth. We walk through that lodge of life coming in from the east. And when the days fade, when we get to that age, when it's time to go back to Creator's world, they'll open that western door. And then that door allows us to go back to Creator's world. And that's the only time we use that western door, is when that time comes, when that heartbeat diminishes on this earth and it's time for us to travel back to our Creator. That western door will open and we'll begin what we've considered a journey back to our way of where Creator made us, into that land of souls. So she wanted to tell you that because it's an important message. It's an important message that the laws that we create in this world are different from the laws that are natural. You need to know that Indigenous people have a direct link to what we consider the natural law. Natural laws are the ones that we have no power over. The natural laws are why the trees grow in the direction they do. The natural law says the water flows in the way it naturally does. We have no control over that. The natural law says that the storms that came into here yesterday were created by the great winds that had a purpose, even though we don't always understand what it is, even though it caused destruction. Sometimes there's a purpose for that. And we don't even have to know the answer to that sometimes. We just know that if Creator created these things, there's a purpose. And so That's what natural law talks about, our ability to know and respect the things of nature that will allow us to become part of that again. When we start deflecting from that natural law, when we change the course of a natural flow of water, which humans have done, when we damage our Mother Earth, and the effects of that, what we're feeling today with climate change, things like that, we're feeling the damage that humans have done to our Mother Earth. The fires that are taking place right now, across the continents, the burning, the high water levels at the cost of the earth heating up to the point where New Orleans is living under, the sea level, the dangers that exist, from the actions of humans dredging for oil in places where we should not, the cost of using tar sands oil, and things like that, which devastate land when it spills. Those are fighting against our natural laws in our views. Those are the ones that we need to control. And what that does is allows us to make human laws which regulate those things so that we can practice our life being in conjunction with the natural laws. So Indigenous people, as the grandmother continues, she says that the Indigenous people will be the balance to all of those things. Technology is great. All these beautiful things that we've learned to create in technology are wonderful things, and they were brought for a purpose. But Indigenous people will be the balance to that. They'll argue against some of those things. They'll fight against some of those things. They'll take a place in a stance to ask questions of, were those things developed based on our natural law? Were those things developed? Are you teaching things in engineering that represent practicing the healthiness of our beautiful Mother, the Earth? And so today, as we're getting close to a generation called the 8th generation, our people, our young people are standing up now, and they're saying, with all the things we're learning, the balance has to be the protection of our Mother Earth, so 7 generations of people can have a life that's not inflicted by the dangers that we present it. And I think that's the important part, of our understanding. We need to have that opportunity once again to share that knowledge once again. And I want to thank our grandmother, for bringing this to our attention today, because she is our mother. As our Mother, the Earth, we all become part of her again when our time comes. When we pass through that western door, our spirit goes to Creator's world, but our body goes back to our Mother, the Earth, and we become part of her again. So really, when we damage her, we're damaging ourselves. And we have to make sure that that's understood. And we got to start, being responsible once again. Grandmother wants to say real quickly to the grandfather here, that says that the balance to the women responsibilities is the father's responsibility, the male responsibility. We look after that fire that gives us love, the fire that you hold in your heart for your partner, the one that you care about, those who are in that spirit world. We need to honor them, because all of those that pass through that western door to this point, we still think about them and we honor them in this manner. So the grandfather wants to honor all of our teachings, all of the things that was passed on from generations in the past that we have today to build on. And so in the way that the grandfather decided to do this in this circle was to bring out the Dawegan, the drum. And we heard that the 4 beats of the drum, the original 4 beats of that drum, represents all people around the world. So when you hit that drum for the first 4 times, it sparks the clans and the spirit helpers of all humanity. But not only that, it also sparks the spirit of those animals that come around, because we understand that the drum is the heartbeat of our Mother, the Earth. When you feel that heartbeat, you feel connected to Mother Earth, and all the beings that are on the earth start to pay attention. When the drum beat begins, the deer, the birds that we talked about will come and look and see what those humans are doing, because they're doing a ceremony. So grandfather wants to thank those ones who traveled through this world. We can't forget about them. We honor them. We give them thanks for the inspiration that they still offer to us. And all of us have people over in that creator's world today that we wish were still here. So we're going to honor them with this song at this moment. And the grandfather would like to offer this song for you. So our heartbeats start to beat together when we hear that drum. Way-ya, hey-ya, hey, hi-ya, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ha, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, hi-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, way-I, hi-yo, way-I, hi-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey. Way-ya, hey-ya, hey, hi-ya, hey-ya, 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 way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ha, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, hi-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, way-I, hi-yo, way-I, hi-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey. Way-ya, hey-ya, hey, hi-ya, hey-ya, 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 way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ha, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, hi-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, way-I, hi-yo, way-I, hi-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey. In the fourth verse of this song was set aside very specially, and I'd like to do this fourth verse for you, but it requires no drum, because the first three parts of the song was for those who walk on our mother the earth. They still have a heartbeat, so we connect to that heartbeat. But the fourth verse is for those who have traveled to the western door, and we're told that the only time you need a heartbeat is while you're walking on our mother the earth. Because when we leave this world, one of the first things that Creator does is takes the heartbeat away. We don't need it no more, because now you're in the beautiful arms of our Creator. And so all of those who are in that beautiful world right now, in the arms of our Creator, the ones that you love, the ones that you miss, the ones that you wish were still here, they send the love through that sunshine, through that rain, through those natural elements of the wind. And if you feel it, they're sending you messages of inspiration. They're sending you messages that they still care for you. Maybe they're not walking on this earth with you anymore, but they are still sending that honor and love that you want, that you need, the love that carries you and makes you who you are today. And so I'd like to offer the final version of this song for all your loved ones, all those that have traveled on this earth, for that time that they were here, and we got to share that with them for a while. Way-ya, hey-ya, hey, hi-ya, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-yo, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ha, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, hi-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, way-I, hi-yo, way-I, hi-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ho, hey, way-ya, hey-ya, hey-ha. And I think they heard that. And I think you felt that. And I think that's really well. It's not about creating laws that dictate every maneuver we do in life. It's about feeling respected about the laws that Creator put aside for us that we need to follow. We live in societies now with crime. We live in societies now with pain and hardship, as we know our children had suffered in school. We live in societies that made laws that stop us from protesting, that stop us from our ceremony. We did do as people in the country. We couldn't dance previous to 1952 under a law. We speak our initiated by humans that we now know was wrong. These laws that inflicted the reason Indigenous people are incarcerated at the rate they are today by those laws that stopped them from practicing who they are. And they were just kind things that they needed to do. When a child was killed at a residential school, parents went to visit them and found out that they had died, and they didn't even get a chance to practice their ceremonies. How would you feel, when you feel that you let down your creator? You didn't have your fire, you didn't have your songs and ceremony. And so what do? You drowned it. You drowned it with sorrow. You drowned it with alcohol. You drowned it with drugs. You drowned it with crime because you want to lash out at people because now you're angry. That's why Indigenous people are incarcerated today. That's why people, are seeing poverty in these communities, because the laws stopped us from being a part of the economy, being a part of society, and being honored to be able to allow ourselves to practice these things. So I just want to thank our grandfather for bringing us to our attention. And I know time is ending now, but in this manner, tomorrow is Canada Day. Tomorrow is a day that you should be proud of the country you live in. And I want you to. And I want you to celebrate, but I want you to remember while you're celebrating with your family, with your friends, that there's a part to it that's not something to be proud of. And this is really what I hope happens tomorrow. I'm not saying, like a lot of people are saying, don't celebrate. I think that's something we need to do, but it's something that you need to remember. There's a balance to that celebration. And there's a taint to this one in particular, because we're in the midst of finding our children, and we're going to find more in the coming weeks. So there's a little bit of a taint to this one, but remember, if we don't work on this together, if we don't create the laws that allow us to work together, we won't see this in our lifetime. We need to have ourselves working together as allies and friends to make this place a better place for all of us. So I want to close on that note. I don't want to always to be the presenter of a solemn issue, because at some point I want to talk to you about our medicines and the good things that we do, and we can all smile about those things. But at this moment I can't, because those children have devastated my heart and your heart. And I'm sure we need to get through the grieving process, and then we'll start the healing process after that. So with that, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of your afternoon today, and hopefully everything works out good for you in this manner. Thanks, Lou.
Miigwech, thank you so much, Myeengun, for these teachings. I just wanted to say a couple of things too. My mom went to residential school, so I never had the opportunity to grow up, with my culture, because it was lost when my mom went. And I'm always so grateful to have these teachings, and to listen to them and re-listen to them, and to absorb all this information that you have provided to us today. I also wanted to reiterate too, with tomorrow being Canada Day, just maybe take some time to reflect for yourself to the history, I guess, of Canada. And you may know people who have been affected by residential school or the 60s scoop. I guess now you know me, right? So just take that time to reflect. A lot of people are hurting. A lot of people, though, we have hope. So we have a lot of hope for the future. I'm getting my teachings back, even if my mom lost them. And I'm constantly learning and on this journey to get back our cultures and traditions. So thank you, Miigwech. And if anybody has anything they'd like to say, I'd like to open it up. So thank you.
Lou, thank you so much for sharing your personal story. I know it's sometimes difficult to talk about. And Myeengun, thank you so much for sharing your teachings with us. I think this type of conversation needs to be more present in our discourse and everyday talk, and not just wait for these opportunities to come up. But we hope to facilitate more of this, and we hope that our community can support it and join us in it as well. If anybody would like to unmute to ask questions, please feel free.
We'll be here for a little bit. Angie, I think you also put in the chat our emails. So if you would like to reach out afterwards, feel free to. And thank you for joining.
I just wanted to say miigwech to Myeengun again. Another wonderful sharing time, and I always get so much from listening to you speak. And I know community really values you. And thank you so much for just representing community and looking towards the reconciliation and sharing our truth and what's been happening for us is so integral to healing for Turtle Island. So thank you again, miigwech.
Thank you. I see it.
Oh, go ahead.
I see a question in the chat that says where can we buy orange shirts locally for All Children Matter? So the Healing of the 7 Generations, you can contact them. They have orange t-shirts that I think they're ordering. I don't know if you can get them right away. I also know if you want to take a small drive, the Woodland Cultural Center in Brantford as well has orange t-shirts where you can get. So either of those two are good options, and they go to very good causes. So Healing of the 7 Generations to their organization, and then the Woodland Cultural Center is also on the same property as the Mohawk Institute, which is the residential school in Brantford, and they have a campaign called Save the Evidence. So you can check those out. Thank you. And I see a lot of thank yous in the chat. So again, miigwech, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, and go ahead, Angie.
Sorry. I see a question about when the recording will be shared. I'll send out the link this afternoon. So thank you.
So we'll close it there. Again, if you wanted to get in touch with either Myeengun or I, our emails were in the chat. And yeah, everybody have a great afternoon. Have a great day off tomorrow. Like I said, please take some time to reflect. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody, bye.
And thank you so much again.
Thank you.